just didn't have the sense of purpose. And I was kind of in a career that I never really dreamt about to begin with.
You act like you have time, but you were never guaranteed that.
The catalyst for me of going, I can't spend 40 something years in the corporate world working for somebody else. So ended up going headfirst into small business. Came out to be about 500,000 or so SDE, or half is left over for us. Ended up being enough, six figures for both of us.
That's the same amount of energy and effort that you would spend finding a rental property. But now, instead of getting a couple $100 a month of cash flow, you guys get six figures of cash flow. This stuff is stuff that people don't think about when they're buying businesses that will set you up for a long time. All right, Eric Cluis, welcome to the Action Academy podcast, buddy. How are you?
Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Excited to have you, man. 11 months and some change coming, huh?
Yeah. Long time listener for quite a while now. And not quite a year. Well, just past the year mark of joining, but
yeah. So walk us through, man. What happened? Why are you on the podcast here today? What did you buy?
I bought a furniture, fixtures, and equipment procurement firm business with another member in Action Academy that I partnered up with. I have a 15-year oil and gas career as a project controls analyst. So kind of like data management, finance, and project management kind of all rolled together. And ended up buying this one about 11 months to the day from joining Action Academy and closed on it. So doing that full time now, I guess it's been about 6 weeks. So enjoying it, loving life, infinitely better than the W-2, and looking forward to everything else yet to come.
Man, I want to take you back first. So back to your career, so that somebody that's listening to this, that's sitting in the corporate job, can take some advice from where you were, your experiences, so that they can know when it's finally time for them to make a plunge. Then we want to go through the business buying journey. What parts were a surprise to you? What parts weren't a surprise to you? And then finally, at the end, for the audience that's listening or watching this, we'll wrap it up with, what challenges are you going through with the post-acquisition phase? I'll try to help you out there live on the podcast as much as I humanly can to get you guys in the right direction and solve any bottlenecks for you guys. So let's start with 15 years, oil and gas, making great money. What was wrong? What was off? You've got the golden handcuffs, you've got the security, you've got this comfort. What more were you looking for that you couldn't find?
That's good question. Honestly, kind of purpose or meaning. Just being a number. My company had 50,000 odd employees, and just being one of those. I managed a team of 16 at one point, and just not really having a kind of a final say in things. You can make some decisions, but a lot of it's just out of your control. Just didn't have the sense of purpose, and like many others too. I was kind of in a career that I never really dreamt about to begin with. It was just
You didn't wake up as a kid and decided that you want to be in oil and gas?
Exactly. Yeah. Being a Houston native is kind of inevitable. You can't find something else to do. You end up in oil and gas. And, whatever, it gave me a great life. I had no complaints with it. It just wasn't really fulfilling. Wasn't something I planned on doing. And so I tried to get out several times to go into commercial real estate related stuff, and just could never get out. But like you had mentioned, golden handcuffs. I had a mentor my first 2 years who told me, if you don't want to do this, get out now. Otherwise, you will be golden handcuffed, because it's hard to beat once you get going. And he was 100% correct. So it was good enough, which you also said is, and numerous times, that's dangerous.
Dangerous place to be,
it
because you
is.
don't move forward, you don't move back, and now you're afraid to take risks because there's always something on the line. But the best quote that I've ever heard, man, is like, every single thing that you want is on the other side of fear. It's on the other side. Like, you have to sometimes give up good to get great,
Mm-hmm.
And so walk us through what happened with your father that convinced you.
So the last probably 2 years of my job, it was the oil and gas post-COVID. That industry has just changed, and I could see kind of the direction it was going, and it wasn't really sustainable for me. And so I knew I didn't want to stay in it. Couldn't really figure out what I needed to do, or kind of make that final decision. And so my dad retired, also in oil and gas, and within not quite 9 months, got diagnosed with cancer, a really, really bad, aggressive form. And so that was kind of the catalyst for me of going, I can't spend 40 something years in the corporate world working for somebody else, and then, that's it. So that was kind of the jumping off point for me, knowing that I needed to finally figure out what I needed to do.
Man, it's really powerful because as soon as we see, like, we have this idea that we have all the time in the world, and while I think that it's good to be patient with the results, it's better to be impatient with the actions, you know, because none of us are guaranteed. Like, once you get into your 30s, we've all seen so many people go so young in every different way, shape, and form, and that's why I tell people, it's like, man, you act like you have time, but you were never guaranteed that. Like, there's nothing that was ever signed that promised you that. And so, it's you owe it to the world to come out here and do what you got to do to make things happen. So, man, you joined Action Academy. I'm curious. I don't ask this question enough, but like, you were listening to the podcast. What convinced you to come hop in with us, freaking psycho individuals? Because it's
Yeah.
funny. All you guys listen to the podcast, and other people are listening to you right now, and it's just like, okay, cool. I'll listen to the show. But then it's funny because as soon as y'all join, you all stop listening to the show because you're too busy doing stuff.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I started listening to the podcast probably, I think it was around Memorial Day weekend of last year, 2024. My fiance at the time, actually, she found the podcast just while driving to Dallas. And I listened to it off and on. So you had interviewed Tyler Cobble because she was
Yeah.
looking for commercial real estate stuff, and I followed him and all that. So yeah, listen to that one, and I was like, all right, what's this Action Academy? What is all this about? This sounds like something that is kind of what I'm looking for. But it took about 3 months for me to join, just basically way out of my comfort zone. And, it's like you said, nothing, it's scary, I guess. Nothing good comes from staying in comfort zones. So it took a little bit, but I kind of had a day at work one morning. I made it literally like 3 emails in on a Thursday and said, I no, it's like a switch flip. Sorry. And, whatever, submitted the application, had the phone call with Caitlin, I think the next day on Friday. And then I joined Sunday.
Let's go, man. Well, it's been an honor to have you, and yeah, everyone's a freaking psycho individual that's in the group. Everybody's hungry, everyone's urgent, everyone's wanting to take action. So, walk us through. You go through all the different asset classes. You're thinking that you want to do commercial real estate, and then you discover business buying. So, somebody that is in oil and gas or in another adjacent position that is a high paid profession, and maybe they're thinking about commercial real estate. Talk to them a little bit about your decision making process to kind of switch from commercial to buying a business and actually pursuing the business path.
Yeah, it basically came down to cash flow to replace current lifestyle, minimum needs at least. And commercial real estate's still something that I plan on doing ultimately, but it's more long-term gain, net worth, equity growth. And so I kind of worked backwards into what I needed as a minimum cash flow and what would be, ideal cash flow, and figured out that, business buying is probably going to be the best bet in terms of shortest time frame, and especially current skill set from work and what that gave me. I felt like that was going to be the best fit. So ended up going headfirst into small business.
So let's talk about the acquisition journey because there's a lot of things that I want to ask you because you guys are transitioning a lot more elegantly into your business because it's just something that you're used to in your career, and I want to talk about that really quickly, but we'll bookmark that and come back to it. Let's first begin with acquisition. So the biggest issues that I see people running into with acquisition are, number one, figuring out what size of business to buy, and number two, what type of business to buy. So, how did you come across the answers to both of those questions in your own journey?
Working backwards, honestly. I mean, trying to figure out, what did I need per month? What did that equate to per year? Which then left me with, all right, I need to figure out that per year plus debt service equals, basically SDE. And then SDE, you can kind of work into purchase price from there based on multiple for whatever industries you're looking at. And then just kind of, yeah, figure out what parameters you need to be searching for industry wise as well as price to get you where you need to be. That was kind of where I started.
And I'm curious, so you are now partnering with Bailey. Can you talk about that partnership and why you chose to partner versus doing this on your own? I think how you guys did it is, if I could wave a magic wand for the best bet of success for somebody in Action Academy or that just wants to buy a business in general. It'd be doing it together for your first business at minimum, and then maybe doing something on your own afterwards. But walk us through the partnership structure. So, how did you think about partnership when it comes to business buying? B, what made you choose Bailey? And C, advice that you would give on partnership in general, how to do a good one.
Yeah. So I approached it, in the modules talk about, your disc profiles and top and bottom line CEOs. And those are definitely great starting points. In an ideal world, one of you guys is top line, the other's bottom. And in the reality, Bailey and I we're both essentially operators. But Bailey's particular skill set of his construction background for the businesses we were looking at, it would essentially kind of work as sales and business development and maybe a little bit of marketing too, just because he can speak the language and that kind of sells. I mean, that essentially makes you the salesman in many ways. So while we were both operators, we both had kind of complementary as well as overlapping skill sets. And just the partnership made sense to me because you don't know what you don't know. And there's a whole lot to buying a business and running one successfully. So it always helps to have somebody else as a soundboard, or a skill set that you lack, or just anything. So that was kind of my mentality of I could do this on my own, but it would be a whole lot easier and get me further to find the right person to help me along the way, and
Mm.
vice
And
versa.
And walk us through. So you talked about a disc profile. So describe what a disc profile is, and maybe some other litmus tests that you use with Bailey, or that advice you could give to somebody that is partnering, about how to do this the proper way. Because I see a lot of people that do bad partnerships. Either it's just a buddy that they know and like that reminds them of them. Which again, I'd like for you to hit on the complementary skill sets instead of the same skill sets,
Sure.
and then also the operating agreement and the structure is poorly positioned and poorly done. So walk us. Let's stick on partnership for a little bit more, because this could be your greatest superpower, but it could also be the thing that takes you down.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely something that other Action Academy members talk to me about quite a bit with partnerships and how important it is. It's essentially marriage. And they say to date beforehand. Bailey and I didn't know each other all that long, but so with the disc profile, just kind of, yeah, I guess what your skill sets are, how you look at things, how you approach things. And I think we were both pretty high on the SC. I was like a DSC, and I think he was an
Mhm.
SC, I believe. So pretty similar, but like I said, we had a lot of complementary skill sets in that he's more CEO visionary and I'm more COO, just operations. So it was a good fit. We both had a bit of a vision, but he's a little better at it than I am. And then I, from my day job, was good at operations, procedures, implementation stuff, running a team, all that. So I don't mind doing that part, which was not something he had previously done. So it was just a good fit in that way. And then personality wise too. I mean, we're both faith based people, and so that was a big component for me, having kind of that same faith to lead on. And yeah, it's just like I said, we were a good fit personality wise, and just direction we were going in life.
Yeah, beautiful. So the last thing that I want to hit on here, and then I want to get into acquisition, is your operating agreement. So for people that are listening, it's like what I'm asking Eric is a lot of the stuff that we teach, but I'm curious about his own lived experience, because the disc profile that we're talking about is a mindset test. You guys can find it online. If you type in DISC, disc profile, you can be able to see how your brain works, how you respond to like your social levels of social interaction, your drive, all this different stuff, your attention to detail, and you can really get a good snapshot of how your brain works and how you show up in partnership. And now the ways that I see people mess this up is either A, they put no thought into who is doing what in the company. And they also have no buyout structures in their operating agreement. So the operating agreement is the agreement that you sign for your entire team when you guys are buying the company for your LLC that you're forming. So walk us through roles, responsibilities, and how you guys went about determining who does what, and what happens if one of you guys just decides to just stop working. Because that's the main reason. If there was one reason people don't partner, is because they're scared that they're going to get screwed by the other guy. So how do you mitigate this for somebody that's terrified to partner that's listening to this?
Honestly, get a good attorney that does
Yeah,
operating
that's a good
agreements. I
answer.
mean,
That's a
yeah.
dang good answer.
Yeah, so that's what we did. We had got a great attorney through also Action Academy, just endless networking connections within the group. So yeah, we basically started a swim lane of who's going to do what within the business, who's responsible for what, and sent that over after a couple phone calls with our attorney explaining kind of the partnership, the way it's going to work, who's bringing what to the table, and everything else. And he wrote up, or I guess he used his template that he has and kind of modified it to what we need it for, but it was a good probably 25, 30 pages of operating agreement of every scenario and what happens when one of us wants to sell, or what happens when one of us isn't performing our duties, or and pretty much anything you can think of. So number one rule for me was get a good attorney and get a rock solid operating agreement.
Yeah, it is not something that you chat GPT and people that are trying to buy businesses on their own. This is the number one area that I see them messing up, where it's a multi million dollar mistake. I've seen guys get dragged that I know personally for like $4 to $7 million because they had a partner that they bought a business with, and the business grows over 5 years, and now they have a market multiple on the business. So say you buy a business for $2 million and it's a 4x multiple, right? And then you have a partner that's now saying that they want to get bought out at a 7x multiple because that's what they believe that the market demands versus a 4x that you bought it at. If that's not in your operating agreement, they can just drag out and do nothing until you pay them out those millions of dollars for their position at a higher multiple. So it's so important. I just did this on a business I'm buying with Ashley and Kyle. Like, I told them to go back and redo their operating agreement because they didn't have clear language in what multiple and how they'd get bought out. Is it going to be seller finance? Is it going to be cash? When are the due dates of the payments? Like, this stuff is stuff that people don't think about when they're buying businesses. That is the most important. The good news is it's a one-time document. It's a one-time suck, but it's a necessary suck that will like set you up for a long time. Let's go quickly now into acquisition. What parts of acquisition were you expecting that kind of lived up to expectations, and what parts were you like, whoa, this was way different than I anticipated?
I would say the number of businesses you have to go through and look at in terms of
Yeah,
finding a good one. I knew that was going to suck, and it lived up to the expectation. I mean, God, I don't even want to know how many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of listings we looked through on a daily basis for 8 months. Um, I think we had probably over 100 NDAs signed, and I think a good 30-ish IOIs and another 20 plus LOIs that were submitted, and only one of those LOIs was signed. So that part would definitely lived up to the expectation. What I was not expecting was kind of how, honestly, how lonely the business search is, um, which, not to go off too tangent, but how important community is with Action Academy and like being around like-minded people. When you're kind of doing that stuff on your own for weeks on end, months on end, and not really getting anywhere, like it's very
discouraging.
isolating. Yeah, it's very isolating, very discouraging. And so going to some in-person events where you meet up with people that are all doing the same thing as you, and whether it's the same asset class or not doesn't matter, but going through kind of the same trials and tribulations as you are, it makes you feel a little less crazy, and kind of gives you that, I guess, encouragement that just stick with it, stick to the plan. It'll work out.
Yeah.
So that was an unexpected part for me.
Dude, it's so big because I mean, and that never goes away. Like, there's just always different levels that you need to continue doing that at. Um, I mean, even like with ad spend, like right now we're taking our company to, we're trying to 10x the company, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. Hey, we're doing this, and somebody's like, dude, like you don't even like that's not even a fraction of what we use to test something. It's like, oh, I'm gonna go film an ad, and they're like, brother, I'm doing 4 ads a day. And you're like, got it. Okay. And then so you shift, you shift what you believe quickly. And then that's why community is so important, because you don't feel like an idiot. It's like all of us are willing to embrace the suck. And like if we're doing like a freaking hike, you're willing to hike up the cliff if you know that you're going in the right direction. You're like,
Yep.
this is the path. I need to go north. It's marked. I'm going to walk. This is going to suck, but I'm going to walk. But if you're just walking in the wilderness, you're like, dude, I don't know if this is a good idea. Like the sun's starting to
Exactly.
go
Yeah.
down. The sun's starting to go down. It's starting to get cold. Like I think I'm gonna go home. We just had a guy in Action Academy. I forgot it. I forgot his name of the post, but he was like, "Yeah, I've been looking for a week and I just can't find anything." I'm like, "Well, welcome to the show, dude."
Yeah. It gets worse.
Yeah, it gets worse, man. But yeah, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. What the good news is, why I love this is that's the same amount of energy and effort that you would spend finding a rental property. But now instead of getting a couple $100 a month of cash flow, you guys get six figures of cash flow. So walk us through the deal that you guys got. How does it break down, and walk us through like kind of what it pays out to the owners and how distributions work, because I really want to hit on the number of profit and SDE that you guys got versus what's take home.
Sure. Yeah. So this business is a 1.75 purchase price. That's what it was listed at, and that's what we agreed. Like that was a comfortable price for us as well after going through the underwriting. Came out to be about 500,000 or so SDE on average, with continued kind of growth year by year as an 8-year-old business. And we got in our first offer that was accepted was April 18th, Good Friday. And then I think the following Monday is when the SBA guidelines changed, going into effect June 1st, and that affected our offer. So we basically did kind of like 2 months worth of due diligence in like 3 weeks, trying to beat the deadline. And long story short, we missed it. There was about 8 of us that did not make the cutoff. So we had to change the structure a little bit. No more seller finance. It's just 90% SBA, 10% down, no seller finance anything. So that was a bit of a bummer, but it was nice in that as we got to know the seller more and more, we weren't really too worried about not having skin in the game, so to speak, from him. Um, and so yeah, it's ended up being a 90-10 split. And then out of that 500,000 or so SDE, about half of that's going to be debt service, and then the other half is left over for us to take home. And it's a W-2 salary because it's taxed as an S corp. So we'll do normal salary with distributions as needed. But yeah, ended up being enough six figures for both of us should we need it.
Yeah. And so I want to hit on that specifically because like that is the structure that you actually need in this, because a lot of people come in to business buying for the first time and they say, I want to take home $120,000. And they see a business that's doing like $150,000 of SDE, which is profit. Or they see a business doing $200,000 of profit. And they're like, yeah, I'm going to buy that business. And when you're doing this on your own, like that is the biggest mistake that you can make, because you just don't realize how quickly that profit goes. And like that's not your take home. That's just the profit of the company. And the best the business is ever going to look is like on the SDE sheet, like however the seller is packaging it, because there's always going to be bodies that are buried, no matter how like you know noble and how honest the seller is. And so I love the 500 number, because what the 500 number allows is, number one, you've got debt service, which if you do it correctly, like what was your DSCR?
It was around 2, I believe.
Gangster. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's amazing. So for people listening, DSCR is debt service coverage ratio. So it's like how much of your debt, how much is your debt in correlation to the monthly profit? And so you guys had 2-to-1, which is amazing. Like you went at least 1.7. And so for 500, 250 is going to debt service, debt pay down right now. So then you're left with about $250,000 left over. And then you split that between two partners. And then that's where you actually get the take home. So that's from 500. And then, so it's like you guys did it perfectly. I think this is textbook. And now you guys got a lot of room to grow it and a lot of room to expand it. But I think that y'all nailed it in a freaking textbook manner. So walk us through the actual process of closing. So for people that are listening to this, that are going through this, they're going through acquisition, maybe they're under LOI, and they're going through diligence right now. Walk us through the actual closing process, the diligence process, and what people can kind of expect.
Yeah. So since this was our first one, we were in a position that I guess we could afford to do full QOE, or quality of earnings, sorry, with the CPA, and get an attorney involved to do the due diligence portion while looking at, any contracts and things like that.
And
So
explain what that is to a listener that hasn't done a QOE before.
yeah, so quality of earnings from a CPA, it's kind of a CPA. They typically specialize in that rather than like bookkeeping or tax strategy or and tax prep, stuff like that. They basically just go through the whole business, look at,
Verify.
yeah, verify everything, P&L, balance sheets, cash flow statements, bank statements, um, tax returns. They go through all of that and just verify that what the business is showing is legitimate and that the numbers that you're buying are actually correct, which to me is huge because it was vital to me to get a QOE done. And then from the attorney standpoint, we had him go through and review contracts with different customers and make sure that those were legitimate and there weren't any outstanding liabilities within the business that we did a full stock purchase. So you buy the assets and the liabilities, and we wanted to make sure we weren't buying any problems. So I would highly recommend that if you can afford it.
How much is it?
They can. We were getting the QOE was about 7,000, which was probably I felt like probably on the low end, maybe somewhere in the middle, but it can get as expensive as you want to, I guess, depending on the size of the business. And the attorney was about the same, about seven, which was also I was getting quotes anywhere between 6 to 7 to upwards of like 20,000 from attorneys. So that was excessive for the type of business we were buying. So didn't feel the need to go that high.
Hmm.
But
And then,
yeah,
did you guys bring this out of pocket? So I'm just trying to break this down as like simple as possible for the listener. Do you bring
mhm.
it out of pocket? Do you wrap it into the loan? How do you guys go about that from the actual funding?
We did it just out of pocket. I guess the loan would have been an option. Yeah, you could have done that with the bank, but we did it just out of pocket to get things moving because we were trying to meet that SBA guideline change deadline. So we had to do it pretty quick. But yeah, so it was just out of pocket for us.
Yeah, and the SBA change for people listening, it sucks, but they're just stricter. They're
Hmm.
stricter, way more strict, man. I am buying a business right now, and we're literally going to the closing table in 5 days. So in 5 days, we're closing on the business, and they were asking for like I wired the money and they were asking for like screenshots of the account. Then I needed to go back and explain like why I deposited money in the account 4 months ago. Where did that money come from? And so it's like very, very intricate because they had a lot of people like that were defaulting on SBA loans, and like that's their reasoning behind like kind of tightening up the program. But regardless, I still think SBA is a good path to go, especially for your first business. When you're talking about QOV reports, I think that is great to do when you're buying it on market. So you guys got this. It was listed, correct?
It was correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's listed. So if you're buying your first business, I think what you guys did, like you just did it textbook. Will you get the best deal and the best profit? Maybe not if it's listed. But what I can guarantee is at minimum, the seller is packaging it up and it's going to be cleaner. Like the broker's already looked at it. Everyone, there's already a bunch of eyeballs on it. It's going to be cleaner with the SBA. But if you're buying off market, you 1000% need to do a QOV report. This isn't even a nice to have. If you're buying an off market business, you need a QOV report. Like that is just a non negotiable. So sweet, man. So you guys take over. Is one of you living in the location? Like, where's the location of the business? Are one of you nearby in person? Are you both remote? Walk us through the actual transition and the ownership day.
Sure. Yeah. So the business is based out of New Jersey. They do a lot of business up on the East Coast, New Jersey, New York, Maryland area, but also do state about 10 or 11 states total where they do business in. So Bailey, my partner, lives in San Diego. I live in Houston. We work remote. It's a remote business minus the installation portion of what we do. You can kind of go out to site for the installation for a few
Hmm.
days. Other than that, I mean, it's 100% remote. There's, let's see, two employees in New Jersey, including the previous owner. There's one in New York, and then there's an agency junior project manager down in Brazil and a bookkeeper over in Turkey. So kind of scattered all over.
Cool. So, walk us through like the business model, how that works, and what. Yeah, like I'm assuming you guys were looking for that specifically so that you guys could be able to run it remotely. So, walk through the importance of that.
Yeah, so I was a little more industry agnostic when I was searching, and Bailey was looking for construction-based stuff since that was his background. And so I said, "All right, I'm in. Let's do that." So this is a furniture, fixtures, and equipment procurement firm for commercial real estate. They kind of specialize in, let's see, multifamily, office space, and hospitality, hotels, boutique hotels, things like that. And so they're the FF&E, the procurement firm for all those projects. They We don't do the in-house design. Everything we get fully spec'd out. We'll price it with the vendors that we have relationships with, which is, geez, probably 600, 700 of them, and cover everything from purchasing all the way through to receiving, delivery, and installation.
Yeah. So
And so yeah,
so you
it's
guys
a great business.
and so you guys are both living remote. Bailey's got his construction company that he's got rocking, and then are you working the construction company with him now too as well, or just
No,
this?
no, that's him and another partner. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so Bailey's over here doing his construction company while he's also running this. You're running this, man. I think like this is just a textbook deal. Like you guys just got a textbook. Like you're like, let's get on base, let's get this thing rocking. So okay, so your ownership day, you didn't even really have like an in office like transition day. So what's ownership transition look like remotely?
So we did actually go. I went out to New Jersey for 2 weeks,
Okay,
and Bailey came out for a week. So we did actually close in the office. They do rent a little office in Westfield, New Jersey. So where the previous owner and his brother both work out of, his twin brother, who's one of the project managers. We can talk about that if you want, about the red flags of family in the
but yeah,
business.
let's
Yeah,
do that. But
yeah,
let's finish this thought first.
sure. But yeah, so we closed. Closing day, I'll say, was one of the most uneventful things of like the whole process. Unfortunately, we had a great due diligence process. Unfortunately, the legal team from the bank, from the lender, kind of dropped the ball, and basically we didn't get the disbursement and closing certificate to sign until the next day. We sat around the office like all day long, had the document signed in the morning from our side, and then we didn't actually get the closing everything and disbursement schedule until the next day. So it was kind of like we're closed, we think, but
Yeah.
I guess so. Yeah.
Okay. And then so talk a little bit about the twin brother. So what's he do? What role does he play? Because normally, yeah, we say, hey, family's still in there. Like what's going on there? Because it normally doesn't end too well. So walk us through that.
Yeah, so that was definitely a concern of ours going through. Just, you hear horror stories about all of it. And as we kind of got to know the previous owner through due diligence, and just kind of learned a little bit more about his backstory and his family and stuff, it became less and less of a concern. So his twin
Cool.
brother is a project manager. He didn't start the company with the founder, but with his brother, but he basically came on kind of early on and has
Yeah.
been there for the last 8 years. So he runs projects and covers installations and all that. Absolutely, like just rock star. Loves doing what he does. He's incredibly good at it. Very analytical, detail oriented. He's been a great resource for us in terms of kind of getting things documented and as new SOPs written and things like that. So yeah, it was a concern of ours, but thankfully, I guess in a rare case, worked out really, really well.
Let's go, man. So what's the goal? What's the vision for the next 12 months, for the next couple of years? Is this something that you guys are looking to hold for a prolonged period of time, or like what's the vision?
Yeah, so trying to just get through the end of the year, learning it more, putting some things into place to help us kind of springboard starting in first quarter next year. But yeah, I mean, the goal is to hold on to it. We don't plan on, a flip and sell kind of scenario. So plan is grow it as much as we can. We really want to double down on kind of the boutique hotel space. Had a had a meeting with one of the larger hotel chains, trying to get in their RFP process, hopefully this month, to maybe be one of their preferred vendors for FF&E. But yeah, the plan is try and grow the business as much as we can and just enjoy it. It's a fun business. We got really lucky finding the one we did with the team we have. So we're just really excited to be a part of it and see how big we can get it.
Man, how's it feel on the other side of this? When you guys had a whole celebration for you leaving. Now it's your first day at school again. So how does it feel on the other side of this?
One thing I did not expect, honestly, was it's been 15 years since I've been the new guy who didn't know what he was doing. And I forgot how much I hated that feeling. And so trying to like temper my expectations of being the expert again is not going to happen, overnight. So that's been a huge learning curve for me because Bailey has the expertise in this industry kind of already from his background. So he can speak the language. He knows kind of what's going on with the meetings and all that kind of stuff. Same with the previous owner. So there's been a bit of a learning curve there for me from that aspect. But I'm having so much fun. Like I honestly cannot remember the last time I had fun working. And I'll work 10, 12-hour days and they go by in like 30 minutes. And I haven't had like a Monday since we started. I mean, every day is just, it's a day, no better, no worse than another. And
Yeah.
I love it. I
Yeah,
love it.
it's crazy because now it's your thing. And if you add an extra $100,000 of profit, like that's y'all's profit. Like
Hmm.
that goes to you because the debt service is already taken care of. So,
Yep.
dude, and then it's really fun. Yeah, it's really fun. And that's why I love like each one of you guys that buys one, like just moves like I need to figure out how to more formally track it. But like, dude, it's just brick by brick creating a million business owners across this country. And it's freaking sick, dude. I love watching you take off and really freaking crush it here, man. So dude, that's freaking awesome. What's some pieces of advice that you can give to somebody that is listening to this and they've heard 50 other Action Academy members on here, or just 50 people in general buying businesses, and they're still like, oh, I should do that. I should do that. But then that fear is keeping them from doing it. What's advice that you would give them in closing to push through and make it to the other side?
Um, Honestly, the hardest part is joining. Like the commitment to just do it. I mean, it took me 3 months to kind of build up the courage, so to speak, and just say yes. But like we said earlier, nothing good comes from staying in your comfort zone. Joining will 100% challenge you, change pretty much every expectation you have of yourself. And then it's just stick to the plan. Don't get discouraged. Don't let time, wear you down. I mean, it's going to take a while. It's going to be harder than you think, but it's worth it. And honestly, like I said, the hardest part was just getting the courage to just join. After that, it kind of just snowballs from there between the community, between the modules, between the help that's there, the network, like everything it's 100% worth it. But you need a breaking point to get you to say yes to joining. Like,
Yeah, let's grind you guys down. That's why we do a freaking podcast every day, man. I'm just like, dude, I've been talking to you for 3 years. What are we
yeah,
doing? Yeah,
everybody does need that breaking point though, because
yeah,
comfort is dangerous. And so if you're just okay, it's hard to say yes to doing something hard.
thousand
You kind of
percent,
need
man.
that trigger.
So where can people find out more about you? If they want to connect with you, if they want to partner with you on something in the future, if they maybe are in the hospitality industry and they want to do business with you, where do they go?
Yeah, so I'm on, I guess, Facebook and Instagram. Eric Cluis, Clewis on Facebook, or just eClew, Eclew on Instagram. Reach out to me on there. I'll be happy to help, give any kind of information or guidance that I can based on my experience. So feel free to reach out.
Let's go, man. And if you guys want to be the next success story, you want to be the next one on the Action Academy podcast, we've got some pretty cool people like Eric in our community. You can check us out at actionacademy.com, or as always, go in the show notes, show description, and book a call with our team. We will yell at you until you're successful. Eric, dude, awesome. Awesome having you on here, man. Long time coming. Excited to see where you guys take it.
Yeah, appreciate it, Brian. Thanks again, and thank you to Action Academy.
Rock
Everybody,
and
go
roll.
join.
Let's go, man. It's been Eric Brown with the Action Academy podcast, signing off.